In this video, we're going to look at the techniques that I demonstrated during the lesson that dealt with the first page of Guitarist Way Book 1. And I'm going to concentrate fundamentally on probably the most important aspect of playing, which is actually, if you're a right-handed player, is the right-handed technique on the guitar. These are so important that I thought it was well worth having a video tutorial to back up what I've done, so that students themselves, but also parents, could understand exactly what are the most important features that I've tried to stress during the lesson. Getting these points right now and practicing this way with the correct right hand technique will just make playing so much easier and enable the student to develop much quicker than if they've been taught incorrectly. So here we are. Got a nice picture now of my right hand on the guitar, and I'm going to show you now the 5 or 6 things that really are key to help playing an instrument such as the classical guitar nice and comfortably, so it won't be a problem in trying to find the strings with either the thumb or the fingers when playing. So perhaps the most important thing that I find will help a student when playing. We're going to start playing with our fingers, but really what we want to do is get the hand in the correct position to help. That we're going to end up with the thumb planted down on string 6. As soon as the thumb is planted on string 6, the fingers feel a lot more stable, a lot more comfortable in where they're going to be playing on the strings. If you ever watch a player who's beginning and starting out and the thumb isn't planted, you'll see some techniques that they kind of introduce themselves to try and stabilise the fingers. One of the most common ones is that you'll see people put a flat wrist down here like this. This means that they can't play and access the strings very comfortably, and we do get a tremendous amount of this type of playing, which is like snapping or hooking. As the fingers curl round to play the string, they snap upwards back into the hand and you get this very harsh, brittle sound. So we're going to eliminate that by just having the correct hand position to straighten the fingers and stabilise the hand without the need for the wrist to be clamped onto the side of the guitar. I've seen this demonstrated a few ways. I quite like this one that I came across recently, which is like making the hand, it forms like a little kind of duck beak, something like that. But perhaps more importantly, what we can see is that I don't have a straight wrist here, I have a bent wrist. The fingers and thumbs, they kind of form this duck bill, and then you open it out and you plant your thumb on string 6, and immediately you can see the fingers are a lot straighter. They're not in this position that I demonstrated earlier. They're in a much straighter position, and now as we play, the fingers can just touch the strings and glide through. So this is the first point that I wanted to demonstrate. I've actually called it in my lessons, which I teach privately, building a bridge. So I bridge up my wrist. It's not flat, I just build a little bridge by raising my wrist, and I call that building the bridge, and it's if we can pop a little orange through underneath through my wrist. I've planted my thumb on string 6 and I've got my fingers nice and straight. So I don't mind how it's done, whether it's called forming a duck shape, putting the thumb down, opening the fingers like that, or whether we just lift the wrist to form the bridge. The most important thing is to get the fingers straighter, not this position. We want them here. So now we've got our fingers. I put actually all 3 fingers on string 1 at the moment, the highest string, string 1, and my thumb is on the lowest string, string 6. In the Guitarist Way book, all this is perfectly well explained in the opening pages, and it's really good in the fact that there's diagrams to help us understand which are the strings and how we can play them. So the second thing is that we look at to help, we've got our thumb on string 6. I've got my index finger at the moment on string 1, and as you can see I've pushed my wrist forward. I'm not playing, even with a small bridge, I'm not allowing my fingers across here. I've just pushed my wrist forward and my elbow has just pushed through, so my fingers are playing more in this position, not trying to play like this. Walking fingers, probably the most important technique you'll ever learn. So I'm just going to demonstrate it. It's much easier to demonstrate. I, index, I, that's what the little I stands for in the music score, and M, middle finger. I, M, I, M. And as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm touching the string, I touch, and then stroke through, then middle, stroke, I, M, I, M. In the lesson I would have done some warm-up exercises, 4 I's, 4 M's, and then we alternate I, M, I, M. Perhaps one of the most other important things that I need to demonstrate here for the fingers is you can see that I've got my fingertips kind of pointing down to the neck of the guitar there. The lower bout of the guitar, away from the neck here. I haven't got them pointing vertically downwards where they're going out a shot there, but going down, because that induces like a hooking feel as they hook back. Putting them at 45 degrees, so they're facing this way, means that you can play off the side of the finger, then it rolls off the nail, flesh and nail. So we get a soft touch, deeper sound, then off the nail. If I just go vertically, we tend to get a little bit more just nail. Flesh and nail, just nail. Quite a difference in the tone and sound. So I prefer the 45 degrees technique to help getting much softer and stroking through. You'll find the fingers just curl naturally away from the other strings, and so it's exaggerating it, but it's nice and clear. Just don't get caught on the other strings. Sometimes that can happen this way. This is called a free stroke. In the book I know it says rest stroke, but I would have crossed it out to play free strokes. This helps playing in the future. It's so much easier. I mentioned a small thing there, and it's quite important actually, fundamentally all the way through. We've done walking fingers, we've got a hand in the right position. The key points in all playing is to go slowly, to touch the string, you stroke it through, and it's touch and play, touch and play, alternate fingers, touch and play, 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 touch and play. It's so important to get the feeling that you touch the string before you play. It does create a little gap at the moment, that doesn't matter in the sound. Touch and play. It's much better to be able to touch the string, feel it and play, as opposed to try to do what a lot of people will try to do to start with, which is to bring the fingers from a distance and just play through. It's a bit of a hit and miss game whether you're going to hit the string there. So controlling the fingers nice and close to the strings, touch and play, touch and play, and all of a sudden the tone gets a lot softer, a lot deeper, and you get the nice Spanish guitar sound. In terms of playing exercise 1 in the piece, I will have done this in the lesson. I will have asked the students to read the notes, and this is the most important thing in any form of learning any form of exercise or study. Ask your child to read the notes, and you can see in the book that the notes are actually written above. There's a little box which tells us which string, E for string 1, string 2 is a B, and string 3 is a G. That's all that's going to happen on page 1. But just get the students to say the names, so you can read through. This is quite good, parents, it's easy to do as well. You just go E, 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 and then B, 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 B. And then ask them to play with the right techniques and go slow. The main thing is here is to go slow that can read and think and play. So we just go E, 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 then to the B string, B, 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 then B, 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 then back to E's. And just taking that time at this point in time of learning will enable the student to really identify those dots on the music stave there and where we actually play them on the guitar. A key question here that I get asked quite often by students, they say, are the music lines on the music stave the strings? No, they're not. This is different. This is proper music as such, not tablature, where you get 6 lines for 6 guitar strings. This is actually a music stave, so you can see the first note, E, is in the space, so it's not on a line, and therefore it's not a string. So if your child does ask that question, the answer is no, these lines are ledger lines, they're on a music stave, they can be used by any other musicians, they're not guitar strings. Okay, so that's quite important. So I'll just recap again. Really what I wanted to get out of this lesson, it's all about right hand technique. It's so important, it's so fundamental. If you're not being taught this technique to start with, really on a guitar, you will struggle later on, I promise you, and it takes a lot to redevelop the technique back again. Very simply, duckbill or build the bridge to get a gap between the wrist and the guitar body. Okay, need a gap there. Plant the thumb just gently on string 6, no need for this or hooking behind. Just place the thumb nice and light on string 6, and the hand is balanced. Walking fingers with a 45-degree angle pointing here from the side of the finger. Touch and play as if you're stroking. Go slow, touch and play. And just that right hand technique will take you all the way through this book and enable you to play all the grade pieces later on, of course, when you're taught them. But it's all about your right hand technique at the moment. This, I believe, is the best way to play.